the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned. Immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of the Telescopes, because I recently spoke to their main man, Stephen Lawrie, very recently, to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. I put a link to their website in the notes below, so you'll be able to find out more about what they're up to at the moment. But this is the interview with Stephen, so after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Stephen, it's over to you.
Well, I discovered music very, very early. I mean, I was a toddler, pretty much. And my dad had something to do with the local youth club. He was on the committee there. We lived in a very small mining village at the time. And mine was, he'd take me in there and leave me with all these leather-clad teenagers who were... I mean, I was walking, so, yeah, I mean, and I was talking at that age. But he'd leave me with them while he went into committee meetings, and they'd be grabbing me and dancing along to Mark Bolan and T-Rex and stuff like that. And, yeah, Elton John, Crocodile Rock, and what others? God, there was, yeah, I mean, there was quite a lot. I don't think I got into Bowie till a bit later, but I knew Space Oddity, of course.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it was glam rock as well, I suppose. Yeah,
It was a very glam period, but there was also bands like Status Quo that were quite popular at that stage as well.
They were just always around, you know. Like I never actively got into them because you just heard them all the time, like you do with, say, Oasis now or something like that. You know, who are kind of the status quo of the day, I'd say. You know, it's somewhat musically.
Yes.
But, yeah, I think I got the 12 Gold Bars cassette for Christmas once, and I was pretty disappointed. but now I listen to them, and I think, yes, the early stuff was pretty good, actually. You know, even the 12 Bar stuff, so there were some good ones, you know.
Yes. And there was also people like Alex Harvey on Top of the Pops, which was always quite interesting and slightly disturbing, because there was something kind of sinister or quite... Yes, Alex was quite the front man, really, wasn't he?
Very theatrical, I suppose.
Yes, he had a sort of intensity about him. But,
yeah, well, I mean, maybe it was real.
Did you have any kind of older brothers or sisters that gave you any musical direction at all?
No, I've got a brother that's 3 years younger, but we sort of bounced off each other. You know, he went through a phase in the 80s where he'd be listening to psychobilly and stuff like that. So, you know, I'd hang around his room like until he kicked me out and listen to what he was listening to. And I picked up things like the Cramps and stuff like that, which I still love to today, you know. But, I mean, obviously, it's like a lot of genres, you know. You listen to 100% of it and you like 2% of it.
Yes, this is very true, actually. Did you then... What was the sort of first single you went out and bought?
The one I actually first went out and bought?
Yes, saving up your 2p pieces.
I know the first one that I got, which was one affair on the Hooker Ducks, and it was Tony Orlando and Dawn, Who's in the Strawberry Patch with Sally.
Right, God, I never even come across Who's in the Strawberry Patch.
But, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's ever been a musical influence on me other than I was fascinated by the concept of a 7-inch and a record and vinyl.
It was mesmerising.
And I remember going out. I remember hearing The Who, My Generation, when I was a kid, and going out to buy that. And I went to a record shop, and he gave me some old crooner song called My Generation, and he swore blind it was the same song. And I ended up having to take it back because I didn't like it. I think the first record I bought was an album, actually. I bought 2 albums. Yeah, it was the Beatles, Rubber Soul and Revolver, I think.
Right, God. I don't know Rubber Soul that well, but I loved Revolver. I thought it was just a great album.
Yeah.
It had so many incredible songs on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, from memory. I had a sort of older brother who was 7 years older during that period of the 70s, so he was into the prog rock period. So I sort of, yes, would sneak into his room to listen to prog rock records, being slightly mesmerised by the sound of them. And yes, because it, Top of the Pops was full of sort of glam, but there was a lot of novelty records as well that would appear on those.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
there was always a lot of, and then you got sort of the kind of disco dance stuff as well that started to emerge.
Jungle rock. That had kind of glam elements to it, but I mean, the guy wasn't glam at all.
No. And yes, I know it was strange the 70s because then you had those other bands like the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac and bands like that came along as well.
That
But
was dad's music to me. That was I didn't really go for all that kind of stuff like Dire Straits, Eric Clapton, or things deemed as quality music. I didn't. It didn't really do anything for me. I mean, I like Fleetwood Mac now, and even some Dire Straits, but at the time that was all just dad's music to me, the Eagles. And I mean, that's one record that my brother had put on in his room that was guaranteed to get me out. He put on the Joe Walsh album and I'd be out of there straight away. We'd have a standoff.
yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, isn't it? There were certain records that were around because my other brother.
I think, end of the 70s, I was fascinated by punk and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say, I was into it at one point. But then it's more things like the Undertones and the Buzzcocks, I guess, around that sort of time.
Yes.
And then bands like the Specials came along, and I quite eclectic, really. I mean, I look back at the records that I bought around that time, and you got the first Human League album and the first two Specials albums, and then Echo and the Bunnymen and all sorts of different things. Like Pill, and no one genre, like sort of thing. Because I remember at school around about that time, you're either a mod, a rock, or a punk, or
Yes.
very black and white.
It was very tribal. I do remember that. But the two-tone movement was one that one couldn't sort of admit to liking because the metal, it was very much a bikers community that I grew up in. So, people started with the 50cc moped, Yamaha probably, or Honda, and then went to the 250, Honda, and and they had the leather jacket and the denim, cut off, and lots of heavy metal bands, and it was, you'd go to these discos which were quite strange really because you'd have the, the top, the top 10, top 20, dance stuff with young girls ish or young women dancing, and then they'd put on a little about 20 minutes of headbanging music, and the boys would get up, stand in a circle and headbang. I wished that would been filmed actually because it would have
another one was The Spread. I don't know if you remember that dance where they put their hands on the hips and spread their elbows forward, and the mods would stand behind them pretending they were puppets holding the strings to them while they were moving and stuff like that. It was very tribal.
Yes, I do. That one is a classic. I just wanted.
I used to run with them all. I was friends with mods. I was friends with punks. I was friends with rockers. I hung out with them all. I just didn't belong to any crowd really.
Well, I think there was the Beats first album which had Mirror in the Bathroom, and I think that was just such an incredible song the first time you heard it. And there was also people like the Pretenders had come along, and they were just some classic songs. So when you got to 16, was this the early 80s at this stage?
16, that'd be like 1985, mid 80s.
Right. So that was at that period then, because like with the indie, for me, indie pop was my kind of thing, I suppose. We'd had the punk and post-punk, and then all those other bits, the goth scene, and yes, as you mentioned, psychobilly, and then there was anarcho-punk. But then sort of indie pop came along at about 80, 83, wasn't it? Bands like the Smiths. When they were you did they sort of filter into your community of friends and kids at school?
No, I mean, I by that time in '85, I was living in Holland, and so I was kind of cut off from what was happening musically in England. I mean, the music that I was hearing on the TV in Holland was nothing that I could engage with really. Like Roberta Giacchetti and the Scooters was their big Duran type band, you know. It was just, it just seemed lame, you know. And so I started delving into my father's record collection a lot more and listening to things like Neil Young and
Right.
David Bowie a lot as well. And I sort of rediscovered the Beatles because I bought those two albums and then kind of left the Beatles alone, apart from a cassette that I had of the Saturday Club shows where they just played old rock and roll numbers, which I loved. You know, I thought they were a really good rock and roll band at the beginning. So I started getting into things like that. But then I needed to move back to England, really. So I moved back just after I was 16. And one of the things is just seeing punks in Holland and thinking about punks back home, and it seemed like kind of designer punk in a way in Holland, but in England it just seemed very street, you know, and very real and very imaginative as well in lots of
Yes.
ways. So I started feeling a pull and missing like the brick streets of England and stuff like that, and the reality, that the music, you know, because there's something about British music that, you know, just does come from the streets in lots of ways.
Yes. Well, then I suppose 85 was then the rise of the great Red Wedge movement as well, wasn't there? There was a lot of political music started to appear at that stage.
Yeah, but that didn't really interest me when I got back. I started gravitating towards, you know, so I was heavily into Pill, like when I was 16. I just scooped up all their records. And I'd been aware of them since the early 80s, you know, when they're on Top of the Pops with Flowers of Romance. I'd think, wow, that's amazing stuff, you know. And the song Public Image as well, you know.
Yes.
And so when I came back, that's where my headspace was. And then, you know, there was a real breakthrough with indie music, and like the indie charts became, you know, for want of a better word, again, eclectic. There was so many different styles in the charts and so many different kinds of bands that you could have the Age of Chance, and then you could have the Cramps or the Very Things or Jesus and Mary Chain or Sugar Cubes.
Yes.
Or the Cranes, all sorts of different kinds of bands, you know.
Well, yes, I know, but it was the kind of, I suppose John Peel was my go-to person, so I kind of
for a lot.
became obsessed with that show really, because you know, it was kind of a lot of good indie stuff. I did enjoy all his other stuff that he would introduce us to, like dub reggae or African music, or the Bundu Boys, or early Public Enemy, and it was kind of like, it felt a bit educational. That I felt a bit like his producer John Waters. He often said, like, John Peel would probably play these records at home and like them, whereas John Waters, the producer, would feel like, actually this is kind of interesting as a sort of, you know, and that should be heard, even though he wouldn't go home and play those records. And I was a kind of a bit of both of them. Some of them I would feel like, yes, I'm glad I've listened to it, but I'm not sure if I'd really want to go and buy a copy. But I feel better for hearing it and somehow fascinated with what was going on. It was kind of, you know, the first time you heard Napalm Death, you thought, well, that's in. I did actually go and see Napalm Death and Extreme Noise Terror in Ipswich. So, but I would have never bought the record and listened to it at home. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, yeah. Some bands are like that, don't they? They're great live, and the albums are tame, you know.
So did you, at that stage in the mid-'80s, did you then start gravitating into the idea of forming a band?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd always been like, I've been like that for a long while. I mean, when I was in school in England, I was trying to persuade people to get something together, and you know, we had no instruments or anything. It was all imaginary, you know.
Yes.
And nothing ever became of it. And in Holland, I joined a band. I went to audition, and I lasted about 2 sessions with them, and then it wasn't what they were looking for. They were looking for something a bit more dad rock, a bit more along the lines of Fleetwood Mac and a guitar virtuoso and stuff like that.
Did you come across that band in Holland called the X? Were they on your radar?
Oh, not then they weren't, but yeah, I know that I've got quite a few of their records actually. One of them stayed at my house when I used to live in Yorkshire.
Yeah, because I know a lot of the anarcho punks.
One of them used to be in the Sperm Whales,
Yes.
who
Yeah.
released flexes in the late 80s. I saw them supporting My Bloody Valentine, in fact, the Ulu ones.
Right. And they were quite, and I think Chumbawamba, they were often sort of squatting in each other's places. And there was a bit of a squat movement at that stage, wasn't there? So,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really follow that kind of music, but yeah, we used to make great use of squats when we were down in London.
yes. So then, sort of, as the 80s progressed, there was a bit of a shift in sort of music. So, I don't know, various bands who'd begun, you mentioned the Very Things who'd done well, but there was a sort of a whole load of bands. I think during that period of the Smiths for 5 years, there was a bit of a kind of a glory period, wasn't there? And bands like the June Brides and the Primitives and Darling Buds and the Mighty Lemon Drops all came along. But, after 2 or 3 albums, they're often struggling to keep going. And then 87 comes along, and then ecstasy comes onto the scene, which changes music a bit and some of it. So what was it kind of like when you formed the band in 87?
Well, what, nationally or like?
Or just for yourself, did you feel like how the scene was changing? Did that have any kind of influence, or were you oblivious to everything else around you?
No, we were very aware that there was lots of bands cropping up that were listening to the same sort of things as us, like Suicide and the Stooges and Velvet Underground especially. So we were very, and we were aware of lots of bands cropping up that had great ideas but couldn't necessarily play that well. Bands that seemed pretty genuine in their intentions as well, and it didn't kind of matter what style of music they were playing either. So we became very aware of that, and obviously you end up playing with a lot of these bands on the same bills and stuff, I mean. And it seemed more accessible as well. Like a lot of these, like the prog bands that you mentioned, and David Bowie, I suppose, seemed like they came from outer space or somewhere completely different that you could never achieve, in a normal street in England.
Yes.
It just seemed so far out of reach. How do you do that? But all of a sudden, bands were starting up in garages with shitty equipment and making a noise, and everything seemed possible. That's what it seemed like at the time.
Yeah, and I think having the gatekeepers like John Peel, who was always happy to give bands a play, probably helped a lot. And there was also the 3 weekly music papers, which were good, and
Yeah,
every town and city had an alternative indie night of some description or alternative night, which kind of gave people the chance to play a few gigs elsewhere, so you weren't playing just in front of your friends and family.
exactly. And fanzine culture and letter writing was a big thing. People used to write to each other
Oh yes,
and call each
sticking.
other on the telephone as well.
Yes, there was a lot of going to the phone box, wasn't there?
Yeah,
Yes, and sellotape and 50p or pound to a bit of cardboard to post to somebody to get a fanzine, or sort of a
exactly.
7-inch single, which was always very quaint. Which actually is quite, looking back on it, was quite a lovely kind of memory, really.
Yeah, yeah. There's a big DIY thing in it that came from punk, I think.
Yes, well, definitely. So then, when you got together, your first single came out, which was that. Yes, where did you record your? So was that Kick the Wall? Was that your first kind of time in the studio?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we did a show in Lincoln at this place called the Encyclopedia, and we were playing with a band called the Bachelor Pad.
Oh God, yes, from Scotland.
Yeah, from Glasgow. Tommy Cherry. And they were managed by a guy called Mike Stout, and he saw our show and he was kind of blown away by it. And he said, "Look, I want to take you into our studio in Leeds, and if you can find a label that will pop it out, then ask them if they'll pay us. Otherwise, you know, it's free of charge." So he took us to Woodhouse Studios in Leeds, where we met his co-partner, Richard Formby. And the two of them mixed, recorded and mixed Kick the Wall and the B-side as well. And then after that, we carried on working with Richard, and we did a lot of records with him.
Was that where Chumbawamba used to record, the Woodhouse Studios?
Oh, it could well be.
I don't know. Yes, I don't. It's
There was a lot of good bands that used to record there. Pale Saints recorded there as well.
Of course, Woodhouse. Did you? So look, the mystery of life. Everyone must ask you. So you came to Norwich Arts Centre in '88.
Yeah, I think it might have been the week that The Perfect Needle came out, actually.
Right. Did you? Was that the? So were you? You hadn't been going for very long by then.
No, not really. No, things happen quite fast, really.
Yes. So were you headlining, or was you a support act?
No, I think we were headlining that one. Yeah.
Yes. So how come, without that much kind of material out there on the streets or in the record shops, so how did people get to know about the band?
I'd say it was John Peel, the music papers, and the whole fanzine community as well. People writing letters to each other, and finding us in fanzines, and there was all sorts of little magazines around as well.
Yes,
lots of different kinds of ones, and there was TV shows as well. There was late night TV shows like Transmission that used to show a lot of stuff. I think, the Jazz Butcher presented that for a while as well.
Right. Well, it's interesting because on Sky Arts, which is a free channel now, they had a series, Guy Garvey, going through these archives of all these regional shows from the 70s and 80s, which I had never seen because they're obviously in different regions. And actually, the material, the bands they'd have on were just absolutely fantastic. And it was just really, I mean, there was stuff that you had never seen before because they were sort of just put in archives in Newcastle or Manchester or down in Leeds and other places, like, I mean, just some fantastic little clips. Because normally when you see these shows, you watch the things that you've seen so many times, you can't be bothered. But this was quite fascinating. So regional television was quite popular at that stage, or quite influential.
Yeah, I mean, I think Transmission went out over a broad section of the country. I mean, they were based in London. They actually, for a second EP that we did with Richard Formby, our first 12-inch 7-sharp Disaster, that was, we didn't have a video for it, but they wanted us on the show. And so they came round to the flat. Well, it was a label's flat at the time. He later became a manager for a while. And just filmed us there and put a wobbly kind of rhubarb and custard effect on it, and just to get us on there. And they had to do it in secret so that the company didn't know that they were making a video for us on the fly, but they really wanted us on the show. We had lots of breaks like that. I think our manager, Nick, at the time, he was running fanzines as well. So he's very well connected, and he knew a lot of journalists as well. And if one of them said something about us, he'd take it up with her and gain more momentum for the thing and stuff like that, So we started getting a lot more press, and we got lots of singles of the weeks and got into the indie charts very quickly as well, So
Yes. So it was your first label that you were on was part of, is it Sowing Seeds fanzines?
Yeah. They used to, Nick and Paul used to run that, and then they turned it into Cherie Records,
Cherie.
where they
Yes.
had us, Bark Psychosis, and the Fury Things, which some of them are now part chimp. And then they did turn into Shea Records and did lots of other kind of stuff as well.
Oh, yes. The Sea Urchins, the Poo Sticks. Yes. My God, that was very...
Oh, it's just stuff. The Bark Psychosis stuff on Cherie's fantastic.
Yes. So then as the decade finished, I mean, bands were coming through, because I remember the Art Centre was just, every, alternative indie night was always quite good, because I guess most people saw it. But I remember seeing My Bloody Valentine with Silverfish supporting.
Oh, yeah, I saw them on that tour, yeah.
And that was like amazing. And then John Peel was playing the Sub Pop 100 compilation. So I saw Tad and Nirvana play, and
they were touring around the UK at the same time as we were touring Taste.
Right.
Taste album. And Mud Honey had a break from the Nirvana tour for one night, and we played together at the Bristol Beer Keller. And they weren't used to the strength of British ales, I'm afraid. They were all over the stage, but they played fantastic. It's quite a memorable show, actually.
Yes. God, that must have been quite... If only
I always thought they were the ones that were out of that scene that were going to make it really big. I never thought Nirvana would.
No. I enjoyed their album Bleach, but yes, we had no idea what was coming next, did we, really?
Well, I hadn't really heard that at the time. I thought I just heard them live,
Yes. And then John Peel, you did a John Peel session as well with the famous Del Griffin, who from Mott the Hoople. Can you remember much about that experience?
Yeah, I remember quite a bit about it.
Was that generally a good one? Were you pleased with the Maida Vale experience?
We're more pleased with that session. It was a struggle to get the guitars as loud as we preferred. He wouldn't let us in the mixing room at all, except to say, "What do you think to this?" He'd usher us in and say, "What do you think to this?" And we say the guitars and the bass need to come up. It's all vocals and drums. And he'd give us the standards. Well, it's because of the compression when it goes on the radio and all that. And I'd say, well, I've heard guitars loud on the radio before. It can be done. And these are written to be loud. And he'd say, okay, and then usher you out. And then bring you back in 10 minutes later, and it sounded exactly the same. You were just losing. He was just humouring you,
Right, yes.
But, I mean, it was great. There's the guy who was working with him, Mike. He was brilliant.
Mike Robinson.
I think so, yeah. He was absolutely brilliant. I remember saying to Mike when I was doing Silent Water, I noticed there was a plaque in the studio that said Bing Crosby did his last ever vocal performance in the studio. And I asked him where Bing would have stood, everything. And he says, well, he would have stood here and the orchestra would have been there. Just grab a mic stand, put it there, and then sang Silent Water in one take. The magic of Bing.
Well, it's good to take the moment, isn't it, really, on these moments?
In the Crosby Wonderland.
It was good. And then you also, because one of the great sort of highlights, and it was cheap fun and thrills, but it was the John Peel Festive 50, wasn't it? We used to get very excited. And you managed to get number 30 with, in 89 with The Perfect Needle.
Possibly, yeah. I think we've had a couple in his Festive 50s.
And you're also included in the John Peel, his famous kind of Peel's record box, aren't you? With his Third Wave album, which Peel said was amazed and glad they're still practicing their mysterious art.
Yeah. He actually rang me up around that time because I was running a label called Antenna Records at the time. And I was working with a band called Los Planetos del Agua. And I found he left a message on my answering machine saying that he was interested in hearing more about them and stuff like that. So I rang him back, and he was under the desk with wires and stuff, he said. So he called me back after a while, and I put him in touch with them. He used to play a bit for my label as well. But yeah, he was very supportive of Third Wave when we came back, because I didn't know how people would take it. Because, I mean, when we made the shift from Taste and To Kill a Slow Girl Walking to more studio-based stuff like Celeste, Everso, and the second album as well. I mean, the second album is just so completely different to the first one. And people didn't get it at the time. You know, they felt betrayed. There's lots of people like saying this, and you know, like, and then as the 90s progressed, all of a sudden I'm a genius. You know, it's a lost classic album.
Yes.
You know, so I started thinking, well, you know, that kind of gives me a lot of freedom. I can do not whatever you want, but you know, whatever you feel. You know, and so I was feeling this. I mean, I started to get to know a lot of people in the sort of breakbeat community.
Right.
And they were showing me the software that they were using and stuff like that. And I was, well, this is essentially a multi-track recorder and a sampler all in one. You know, I don't have to spend hours in the studio. Like when we're on Creation doing this studio stuff, the second album and the singles we did with it. It used to take a long time with the Akai samplers and whatnot, syncing things up. You'd rinse loads of studio hours like that, watching the clock all the time. So that was an escape route from all of that for me.
Yes.
And so I followed my inspiration in that direction, and Third Wave was the result.
What was it?
I wasn't sure if like people were going to go, oh God, not again, goddamn traitors. But it was really well received.
Yeah. Was that a big thing being on What Goes On Records? Did you have much, I don't know, choice between record labels, you know, for Taste? I mean, it was a bit of a strange time because Rough Trade were having quite a problem, weren't they, at that point, and were getting themselves into a bit of a mess. And I know a few record labels and bands who got on it. Their timing was just totally unfortunate because there was just issues with, you know, record companies going bust or stock being sort of withheld and stuff like that. Was what goes on? Was that generally okay to a point?
At first, for a while, yeah. I mean, we did go around a lot of labels. Chrysalis was a label that was always sniffing us around, always inviting us up to their office, and we just got bored with the lack of momentum from them, really. And What Goes On had that momentum, and also they had a lot of different kinds of music that they were working with. And we just got on with the whole team really straight away.
Yes.
Like an instant connection. But things kind of went downhill, and that was more to do with the owner really than the team. The team were all sound from the beginning to the end, but the owner kind of bailed on us, left us in receivership after inviting us to his swanky pad for a lovely croissant breakfast one morning and promising us the world. That was on the Saturday morning. On the Sunday, we received a call from someone on his team saying, we've all been told to clear out our desks Monday morning.
Right.
It's all going into receivership. Because we'd had a meeting to say on the future thing, there was more demands that we had with each record, and it took us to a new level, and we had more demands for the record company. Okay, we want ads running on this time, or this time we want to do video, or things like that. And he promised us all these things, and then on the Monday, it was no more. So then we really did the rounds on the record companies. I think we may have even seen Simon Cowell as well at one point.
Yes.
So many labels, but they were all deterred by the fact that we were locked in this receivership. None of them really had the gumption to go for it. And then we did some shows with Primal Scream, who we supported quite a few times. And McGee had seen us, and Bobby had obviously talked a lot about us to him. And he came to see us in Birmingham and had to leave because it was just too intense and loud for it. And I thought, oh, well, that's the end of that then.
Yes.
Get a call the next day. So he was absolutely crazy about it. He just loved what we'd done to him, and he loved the effect that we had on him, and wanted us to come down to the offices immediately. And we told him about the situation, and he wasn't fazed by it at all. He just walked he arranged the meeting with the receivers, walked in there and said, have you got any other offers? They said no. He says, right, here's a penny. You have to accept it. It's the highest offer. And he got our whole. I mean, he had a rant at them at first, like McGee style. Like, it's not a fucking can of beans you're dealing with, all this sort of stuff. And he totally shell shocked them. Really, they didn't know if they're coming or going. And he walked out of there with our master tapes, and he just handed them all back to me. The rights.
God, you must be so pleased that that moment happened.
Oh yeah, I mean, he could have kept it. He paid the penny. He paid the piper.
My God, you had the ownership of your own music. Because actually, that period of the early 90s, because he'd had his 80s wasn't that fantastic, and they'd been they were moderate success, but then My Bloody Valentine had sort of blown quite a budget, hadn't they? Which was quite tricky for him because he was under a lot of pressure. But then he signed Sugar, Bob Mould's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I remember, because I did an interview with him, and he kind of heard it and thought, God, this is just brilliant, that first album. And there was a bit of a bidding war. They kind of made out there was a lot of people interested, but there weren't. So eventually they went with him at a good price. And that was such a massive album. And I think helped him financially during that period. And obviously later on, the 90s was a golden period. But yes, it must have been quite interesting being on. Because we're Ride on Creation as well at that stage.
Yeah, I think they did either their first or second gig was supporting us in Oxford or Cambridge, somewhere like that.
Right. But then when you did the Third Wave, this was on Double Agent Records.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So who's this is run from New York by Peter Green.
Yeah, I think he's put the label on hold now.
What was that? Was that a okay experience?
Yeah.
And then, so that was because your 90s. There's quite a gap, isn't there, between the Creation record and then Third Wave. What was kind of happening during that rest of the 90s?
Well, yeah. I mean, after the second album, there was things like a certain journalist said who's been friends with us and interviewed us on loads of TV shows at our request, do these TV shows, and they'd say, "Oh, do you want to interview you?" And say, "Oh, such and such." He'd come along, and he was becoming quite a talking head on the TV now, for he's getting other bands asking him to do it as well. And we considered him a friend, and he really insisted on reviewing the second album to the point where we couldn't refuse, and he was pretty high up in a magazine, and he absolutely trashed it. So with a damning line, this isn't what Jimmy died for.
Right.
And our press people at Creation were saying, "Oh, such and such record store have pulled their order because of this review," and stuff like that. I later found out that this journalist was applying for another job at another music paper as the editor. But they were skeptical about having him on board because they said he worked for another music paper that was more concerned with shoegaze, where they were more concerned with this upcoming grunge thing. So to prove his salt to them, he went and trashed loads of bands he considered to be shoegaze. I'd never considered us to be shoegaze. No one had ever written about us being shoegaze. But we did a gentle album, which really was more influenced by Talk Talk than anything. But yeah, so he trashed all these bands and he got the job. So I found all that out later, and he became quite famous. So that had a knock-on effect. And then Alan got ill at Creation, and Creation had a big clean-out of bands and everything. Basically, anyone that Sony didn't go for, you were out, you know.
Right. So,
I mean, I was kind of like feeling a bit battered by it all anyway, because it wasn't what it was in the beginning. For me, I wasn't sitting down to write songs that would be successful, ever. And then all of a sudden I was in a situation where I had lots of people in suits telling me that, nothing against suits, but they were telling me I had to write a hit record. And I'm getting phone calls all the way through the night, people saying, like, is it a hit? Is it a hit? And I just don't work like that. And then I had the bands sort of wanting success as well, wanting things to go further. So there's this, all of a sudden I wasn't writing for the right reasons. And I just had to shut it down, basically.
Yes.
You know, I mean, if you're not doing it for the right reasons, don't do it at all. So I tried to run away from my own shadow for a while until I discovered that you can't. But I did some things. I did some other music. I worked with a band called Fuchsia, FUXA, and, you know, I actually did courses as well in this music technology and stuff like that to learn more about it.
Yes. That was a harsh time. I just remember I did an interview with, I hope it's not the same person, Simon Reynolds, who's done a book on...
No, not at all.
Because he's got a new book out, hasn't he?
Yeah. I think Simon Reynolds has either interviewed us or reviewed us before.
No, I just wondered if you appeared in the book. I mean, I think it's quite a nice book, actually. It's not... hopefully not unpleasant. I hope that's not the journalist that you're talking about.
No, it's not at all.
Oh, thank God. I'm starting to sweat here. God, yes, it's one of those ones you think, oh, shit. Yeah, okay.
It's one of the cooler ones that everybody remembers now and, you know, have books out and things like that. It's not one of those.
Yes. So then when you came to record Third Wave, was that kind of quite a big... like landmark for you, sort of having to sort of navigate yourself emotionally out of that kind of horrible experience?
Well, the years had passed by then, and I'd spent time getting inspired by different ways of working, ways that, I mean, there was like 3 or 4 tracks that weren't released on Creation that were heading towards the Third Wave direction. You can get them on compilations now and stuff like that, Cherry Red and Revola and all sorts of people have reissued these things. But yeah, I was heading in that direction, but it was that obstacle of you've got to spend, I mean, same as My Buddy Valentine, to work the way they did. They had to spend hours and hours in studios toiling over Akai samplers and the like, you know, shortening, lengthening samples and trying to get them to loop and sync with everything. It wasn't anywhere near as easy as it is now.
Yes, I would imagine. And also there was a big change in sort of the music scene after the end of the 90s, really, with, I don't know, there was a scene, wasn't there? There wasn't just Britpop, but in America there'd all been those other sort of metal rap bands that sort of had been on the scene, and music there was definitely another chapter that had happened during the sort of O years, really.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't continue listening to things like Can and the Velvets and stuff like that. All that stuff's informed me in the way I work, I guess,
Yes.
or what I'm drawn to.
So what was the label that you started, by the way?
Antenna Records.
Right. So that's your. So that did you start that or get that into practice with your next album, Four?
No, it was before that. It might have even been before Third Wave. It was for 2 albums at the beginning. The Future album, which featured Sonic Boom doing a cover of Girl by Suicide and lots of ambient pieces by Randall, who does Fuchsia. And then there was Los Panitos del Agua that Peel picked up on.
Right.
So it was those 2 records. And then there was another one. Oh, there was a band called O from France, sort of call themselves orchestra, non-orchestra. Sort of broken up acoustic guitars, recorded with the levels too high in some ways, and very minimal bits of electronics and glitch and stuff like that.
Yes.
Quite an experimental album.
Well, absolutely. Did you
And
enjoy?
then it was the 4th one.
Did you enjoy running a record label for that period?
I did, yeah. The sad thing is what the more the telescopes took off again, then the less time I had for Antenna.
Yes.
And I don't believe in doing it unless you're completely committed to putting somebody else's record out. You can't do it and be completely distracted by your own projects, and they can't get hold of you all the time. So, I have to be 100% into it. So that the label's sleeping at the moment; it's dormant. But I might resurrect it.
Yeah. So the last album you put out by then was it Afghan White Walls?
Yeah. He's from Tenerife.
Right. Yes. Did you start? Were you touring again at this stage with through the Third Wave?
Well, with Third Wave, we did one show in the Arts Centre in Burton-on-Trent, and I mean, it was a great success. It was loads of people came. It was full. But the thing is there were so many musicians and so many instruments that it was just impossible to take on the road. We had sitars, pianos. We even had computers, horn sections, drills, chains, all sorts of percussion, guitarists, bassists, all sorts of organs. There was just so much instrumentation. We couldn't take it on the road, and so we just slimmed down to a 4-piece and started doing versions, because we were getting offers to go all over around Italy and all sorts of places.
Yes.
So we decided to do versions that we could do as a 4-piece, and started developing new pieces as we're going. It was all very improvised, and that developed into the 4th album that way. So yeah, we were doing a lot of touring, and then after the 4th album, more tours came.
Yes. Were you particularly popular in any country? Because often talking to bands, there's often I don't know. Sometimes they say we're really big in Italy or Spain loves us. Did you have that sort of a fan base in any particular place?
Yeah, I mean, France, Spain, Italy, Switzerland, Greece as well. Some parts of America.
What was it like touring America? Because I know most people, a lot of bands that I've done have often said, this is the bit where they say, oh, we went to America and then we came back and split up because it just finished them off. What was it? Did you have Was your experience okay, or did that slightly spiritually churn you into dust?
I play with a lot of American musicians when I'm over there. What I have done in the past, yeah, it's a very different experience to say Europe, but it varies the more you move around. Like New York's completely different to San Francisco, and then all the states in between are completely
Yes.
different again. You know, you just don't know what to expect from one town to the next, really. But it is grueling because the distances are a lot longer.
Yeah.
Your typical journey is about 10 hours.
It sounds murder, doesn't it? Especially, I suppose, if you're doing it for about 2 or 3 months, it must finish you off a bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yes. So what was it you did in sort of 2011? You played at, is it All Tomorrow's Parties? You were invited by Portishead.
Oh, yeah, Alexander Palace, yeah.
Was that a good experience?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think our sound was that great. But then I didn't think the sound was that great for many bands, really. Apart from the bands on the bigger stage, and it seemed to suit the bigger hall more. There's a lot of sub bass coming through the PA. I mean, I was watching Swans, and when you get to the front, it's great, it's intense. You move halfway back, it's just right. But when you're at the back, it's just a boom.
Right.
You know. And in some of the smaller sort of stages, the rooms were a bit small for the sub. It was a bit too much. But yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't terrible.
No. My God. So the next decade is kind of a bit of a, is it a bit of a golden period for the band at this stage? From 2010 onwards, because you did a couple of new singles, a version of Nick Drake's Black Eyed Dog.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Was that an artist that you were familiar with from your younger days?
From about late 80s, I'd say. Yeah. From about the late 80s. And then I think maybe in the early 90s, they brought out a box set and it had the extra LP with all the unreleased recordings on it. Black Eyed Dog was on that. I always loved that track. And I think I was just playing around with my Wasp synthesizer one day and got this drone going. And I don't know if I'd been listening to Nick Drake recently or not, but I just started singing Black Eyed Dog over the top of it in a slower sort of motion and got excited about it and started building the track up, recording straight away.
Yes. So when you went, was it 2013, you did the West Coast tour of America and the new album, Harm. Was this with quite a different lineup at this stage?
Yeah, that was with a band, LSD and the Search for God. But it was augmented with other musicians as well, like Ricky from the Brian Jonestown Massacre. He was playing guitar with us. Yeah, because that's how kind of our Harm came about.
You're right.
Because we were playing Black Eyed Dog live, and it was becoming something else. And we got an offer to do this radio show. And this radio show, massive fans of John Peel. They modelled the radio show on that and have sessions as well. And yeah, we went into the studio and I said to everybody, let's do Black Eyed Dog, but I'll sing something different. And that's just what came to me.
Right.
So that ended up, and then we recorded another track where I said, does everyone know the last track on the Telescope's first album, Suicide? I said, for this one, have that in your mind, but never play the riff or anything. And just keep it in your mind. And they improvised with that. And we thought, I went out for a smoke and everything, and Ricky comes out to me and says, "Hey man, you should listen to this. There's something going on here, you know." And I went in and listened. Bit reluctant to be interrupted from my smoke, but
Yes.
I was pleasantly surprised. You know, I heard it back, and usually you hear things back, you think, "Oh, I don't like that bit. We can chop that out or something, or do something about it, or do another take." But no, just the whole flow of it on each track was just. Me and Ricky just turned around to each other and said, "That's an album."
It's there.
I'd always wanted to do one where it's a track on each side, you know, so you just get absorbed in a continuous piece of music.
Yes. So was that around that time then you got signed up by the German label, Tapet? So how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Muse Wallpaper. That's came about. We were on tour, and our kind of base for European tours is Paris. Our guitarist, when we play in Europe, is based there. And so we're on tour, and we'd come back to Paris, and we're all chilling out. We're getting ready to go across to Germany to do a show in Hamburg. And then we get news that the show's been cancelled, something to do with the venue ownership, completely out of our hands. So I thought, all right, let's kick around in Paris for a few days and have a jam and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Gunter from Sepec gets in touch with me. We're so looking forward to your show, and like, we wanted to talk to you about doing a record together. So I sent him a recording I'd done with some guys in Glasgow, St. Deluxe, at their studio. I recorded a track called "You Know the Way." So I sent that over to Gunter, and he was just, yeah, let's do it. Let's do an album.
Blimey, that was a nice bit. And so that's
something going wrong, something further progress.
Yes, but that's been quite a consistent relationship now for the past 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
That must be quite exciting, actually. So then from that, you did Hidden Fields and then Exploding Head Syndrome.
Yeah.
God, that was quite good. And then obviously the lockdown came. How did you cope with that sort of period? Did much change for you, or did you just go in the studio and start recording more?
Well, I'd met my wife by then, but we weren't married. So I was down in Shropshire when the lockdown kicked off. I had a place in West Yorkshire where all my music stuff was. So I had to be locked down for a while down here, where I live here now. And yeah, I mean, I was writing. The songs were just flowing out. I was going for my walks every day, queuing up for my food and stuff like that, and keeping myself to myself, just writing. But well, at the same time, there was all sorts going on, really. I mean, my father-in-law had dementia, so the lockdown wasn't so easy for him. I mean, he just didn't understand it. He had his routines.
Yes, God, that's horrendous.
So, I mean, all that had an influence on the Experimental Health album, which came out of lockdown as well. But yeah, so I would as soon as we were allowed back on the trains, I'd get a train up to West Yorkshire. I had to treat my wife's place as my bubble, sort of thing, you know, and I'd just get my head down and record about almost 24 hours a day, get as much done as I possibly could, and then come back down to Shropshire. I recorded Songs of Love and Revolution for Tapet.
Right.
During that period, and then Experimental Health as well.
Yes. So then, because you did an album also on Fuzz Club Records, which was The Growing Eyes, Becoming String. That was, so you were you working with Colin Lloyd Tucker at that stage?
No, but he has mastered it, yeah.
Right.
We were working with him by the time that came out, but not at the time the initial recordings were made. because they were
Yes.
made in 2013.
Oh, right. So that was kind of old.
Yeah, we got invited out to Berlin by Anton from the Jonestown and to his studio, and we kind of got there. Well, we were traveling through a blizzard and everything. No chains on the wheels or anything. And you're looking at trying to, should we pull over? And you think, no, we'll get snowed in. It was just an absolute blizzard, and we were getting no answer from Anton or anything like that. Get to Berlin, still no answer from him. Book a hotel. Next morning, we decided to ring Will, from our friend from Spaceman 3 and whatnot, and Dead Skeletons and stuff, who's living in Berlin. And he got us access to the studio, told us that Anton was AWOL and there was no equipment there or anything like that. But we had to go ahead.
Right.
So we had to get together with Anton's producer and go around Berlin collecting instruments, pieces of recording equipment, all sorts, while Will built all these separating, I've forgotten the word for it now, partitions.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Go between the amps to to help prevent bleed over, and he's putting the studio together with woodwork and stuff like that. And while we're getting all the equipment, and we managed to get it together. And this is between Christmas and New Year's. I mean, Will had given up his festive time to help us with all this, which was very good of him. And yeah, we just banged down like about 4 tracks in 4 days, track a day, and I wrote them on the spot pretty much. Some of them I had notes on my phone.
Right.
And we only really, because we lost a day getting the studio together, we only really had time to do the guitars, the bass, and the drums. Didn't get time to do my guitar or my vocals. So we decided to finish off this project in Leeds, going back to working with Richard Formby at Woodhouse. We did a further 3 tracks with him. And then we had a computer crash. And I thought all the material from Berlin and Leeds was lost for ages, until one of the guys who played on it eventually told me he had it on an external hard drive. So I was able to rebuild it and put my parts down. But the thing is like, by the time he's told me that he's got the stuff, I'm busy with other projects. So it takes a long while, before I've got the time to do it. So it wasn't until shortly after lockdown, I guess.
Yes. My God. So that's the album, just to go back to, that Colin did the engineering on.
He did the mastering on it.
Right. And that's Growing Eyes, Becoming String.
Yeah, and I've worked with him ever since, really.
God. Yeah, he's
absolutely brilliant. He really gets the music.
Yeah, he did an amazing project in the early 80s with Simon Fisher Turner.
Yeah.
Which was quite extraordinary. Yeah, I mean, he's a very prolific artist. So those songs on that album, there's 7 of them. So which are the ones that were recorded in that? Were they all recorded in Berlin at that stage?
No, side 1's Berlin, side 2's Leeds.
Right. My God. Oh, well, that will be an interesting one to have a re-listen, actually, and sort of picture you guys freezing cold. So what?
Yeah, I mean, it really was an exercise in blindness for the band. I mean, going from the blizzard and not being able to see. I mean, we had lorries jackknifing in front of us, and you only just saw it in time because of the blizzard. And then they come into the studio. They don't know if the sessions are going to happen. They're blind to all that. They don't know what's going to. And then we finally get in there. We've got accommodation. We've got a studio, but they don't know what's going to happen on the album, because they don't know any songs. I'm like, okay, here's the idea. Tap out a rhythm to the drummer, hum a bass line to the bassist. Away we go. And I want it to change here, and say, I'll give you a nod when we do this. So they were completely blind to it as well. It was a whole exercise in that to them. I mean,
My God, well, the vinyl and CD both sold out, so it's gone down well. And what did Anton say for the reason of not being there?
you did well.
You went, cheers, mate. That was
A month or two later, I got a message from her saying, you did well.
good. He's like, yes. So then coming to the next album, which is one that I spoke to just at the beginning, which is quite... So this one, Halo Moon, is that almost a concept album at this stage?
I wouldn't say so, no. It was just trying to leech off the magic I felt that night when I went out into the studio. I mean, I was feeling inspired. I was in an inspirational mood. And I was like, that's a weird moon. What is it? It says Halo Moon.
Right.
Oh, Halo Moon. And just all praise the Halo Moon. All hail the Halo Moon.
All hell, yes.
And and then you just a vibe emerges, and away you go.
So was that the first track you wrote for the album?
Possibly, yeah. I think I had some sketches of ideas, songs that were almost written. I have a lot of them hanging around, but it isn't until like something really clicks and then I'll go back to them and I go, right, that's what they need. They could fit in with this whole feel that's going on, but that's in the way, and that's so obvious now. And you pull them in. So there's lots of ideas around, but the majority of it, from that song onwards, it's when it
because it's Lonesome Heart, Halo Moon, Nothing Matters, This Train Rolls on side 2. It just has a sort of, the whole album has a sort of a very sort of similar... It feels like you probably wrote it quite intensely over a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, to keep the same feel, like, to everything. Like, it's all in the same story or dream or whatever.
Yes, my God. And then this year you've released... Is it this year's Static Charge has come out?
Yeah, July.
In fact, last month.
A couple of weeks ago.
So is that the one that you've just toured recently?
No, we've done a few shows for that. We did like a 3-day release party, which was just 3 dates, testing out material and stuff like that. And also, we hadn't done any shows for a while, so we wanted to do that to get back into playing live. Then we did a in-store and rough trade a week or so ago. Down in London, the Denmark Street one.
Right.
But we're touring that September in the UK, October Europe.
Yes. So who's in the lineup now?
There's John Lynch, who's been playing with us for quite some time. There's Robert Prest, he's been playing with me live for quite a while. I think it might be the first record he's been on. John's been on a few now. And Daryl Carter, who does another project of his own under the name From, FROMME. He's got some stuff on Bandcamp, and I produce his stuff as well.
Yes.
So we were working together on his music, and then it just sort of naturally developed into playing with us.
Right. So with this one, because you said the last one was kind of inspired when you saw the Halo Moon, what was the inspiration for this particular release?
There was all sorts, really. I just collect ideas of things, thoughts that we have in conversations. Discussions like things that annoy me. like I can watch a politician's speech and know that every word is a lie. And
Yes.
everything they do, they completely contradict, but they're gaining in popularity through lying people. And especially when it's a politician that's caused the problem that people are in right now. They're saying, oh, it's like saying, oh, sorry for shooting you in the foot, but I've got a solution. Just let me shoot you in the other foot. And people go for it. So things like that. And things like, people ripping you off and scamming you and things like that.
Well, yes.
Things, I mean, all of that bleeds into the first two songs. And then you look around and it's like in lockdown, I looked around at all, I'm not going to name any names, but people I admired to see what they were doing in lockdown. And it's just so many of them were scared and going along with mass hysteria and talking absolute nonsense and creating a very horrible environment for everybody.
Yes.
And, people are considered to be quite revolutionary in their art and stuff like that, and their approach, and it made me rethink these people. So, yeah, things like the dissolution of revolutionaries and stuff,
Revolutionary Blues. You haven't heard the new... I've only heard a clip of it. It's frightening. The latest Boy George single, then.
I've not heard it.
Yes, it's yes. Prepare yourself for something else. So it's a tricky one. Yeah. So with this album? Did you go to a studio to record it?
We did it in my studio.
Right. And was that produced by Colin as well?
He mastered it, but I produced it and arranged it and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the band, do you often sort of play with them during sort of the making of an album, or do they come in once you know what you want them to do?
On some albums, like the ones I do with Saint Deluxe, I just pick up a guitar, say this is the song, start playing it on electric guitar. They'd start picking it up as I'm going along. By the end of it, they kind of know what they're doing. They used to just turn around to me and say, well, let's do a take.
Right.
Really? And quite often it was the take. Some of the people I work like that with as well. On this one, I showed people basically the idea, sat down. It's done very similar to the way I did Growing Eyes. It was very similar to that, the way I work with One Unique Signal. And except on this one, while they were putting their parts down, I was recording them, and then I put my parts down afterwards. So, whereas on the one in Berlin and Leeds, I was playing rhythm guitar, but then I put my lead guitars on afterwards.
Right.
So and then with LSD and The Search for God, when I recorded them, it's always all of us in the studio at the same time, completely live. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, bin it.
Yes, well, absolutely, and move on. And are you still enjoying touring and playing live?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a bit of a break from it for a while, because the last big tour we did was a couple of years ago, and it's about 40 dates or something like that, and I got ill for the last 10 days. Complete insomnia. I didn't sleep for 10 days at all. I wasn't partying or anything. Just struggling to try and be healthy to do the shows. And it had a real effect on me for a long while afterwards. I was absolutely shell-shocked by that tour.
Yes, God.
Well, I mean, you always are when you come back from tour. It's almost like somebody's banged the palms of their hands on each of your ears at the same time, disorientating you, Like, it's always strange coming back, but...
Have you ever lost it a bit on a tour? Like completely just had no idea where you were and what, I did interview somebody who did say they realised when they'd been speaking to a mirror for half an hour that things had gone a bit too far for them and they needed to get off because they'd been just touring a big tour for about a year and they'd become a bit psychotic.
I remember at a service station in perhaps Poland or something getting very paranoid about... I was trying to buy a packet of cigarettes and I was very paranoid about where they came from because I was convinced that some cigarettes spy on you. I think I might have had blood poisoning at that point and stuff.
Yes, it's quite. So with your tours now, do you try and do a few dates and then get home and then do a few more dates?
Tours have been getting longer and longer, really. But I mean, there was a time. I mean, before lockdown, I used to spend very little time at home. I was constantly on the road, and if I wasn't on the road, I was recording. But now we're trying to keep it a bit more realistic. Just a few weeks at a time. Something like that's the plan for now. No more like 40 dates on the trot,
No.
Just think it's detrimental to the music a bit as well. I think you hit your peak and then things start getting a bit weird and a bit mad and a bit abstract.
Yeah, so on this one, you've got September's pretty busy in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there might be some more days to come as well.
And then is Europe in October then?
Yeah, it's just 3 weeks in October.
My God. Do you take much of a crew with you at that stage?
No, not really. It's just us and a driver. I mean, we know how we want our guitars and amps. We don't really need roadies.
Yes. And is it the case that with those sort of tours that you do in Europe, are they the ones, from what I've heard, are the ones that can sort of pay the rent for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, some shows pay extremely well over there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you go out and do a big long tour, keep your overheads down and stuff like that.
Yes, well, that's good. And then in the pipeline for next year, do you have another album's material that's kind of ready to go?
Yeah, I'm working on a project at the moment, another one from the past, actually. It's from when we played Austin Psychfest. The day after that, we watched some bands, and then we drove through the night to Memphis. And we did a show there, and then went into Ardent Studios and recorded a session there throughout the night. And I've been going back through that material, those recordings recently. It took me a long while to get the recordings, and they're in quite a confusing state when I got them. But
yes,
kind of made sense of it all now, putting it all back together.
Oh, cool. So this was the Austin Psych Fest, when was that, 2012?
Yeah, around about that time. Yeah.
So who had the master tapes of those sessions?
Oh, I mean, I had versions of it, but it wasn't what I wanted, It had things bounced on it. The studio had stuff, and some guys out of Cloudland Canyon and in Memphis, they had some stuff as well.
Yes.
But they kind of had a version of it that they wanted to put out, but I didn't think it was right, really.
So if you just had to tidy it up and then engineer it?
Bits of it, just choose the sections that work best, really.
Yes. Did it feel strange listening to something from like 14 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it always does. Because, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it takes you right back to the session, where you were at, what was going on.
Yes. Well, look, Stephen, thank you ever so much for this. I think I've got quite a lot, actually. But yes, thanks for your time. I mean, really appreciate it. If you want, I could always send you a link to the interview, and then you could put it on your social media pages if you want, and use it elsewhere. But yes, thanks. Yeah, thanks for giving me the time for the interview. That's been brilliant. But yes, well, good luck for your September and October dates, and yes, hope it all goes swimmingly. But and hopefully you can put on your air conditioning now.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway, the quality's been great. But thanks for your time, and
My pleasure. Thanks.
much appreciated. Take care.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye. That was me in conversation with Stephen Lawrie, talking about his life in music. This has been the C86 show. David Eastaugh. Have a great week. Stay safe.